What's up, guys? We are on the second shelf of my sci-fi horror collection. We are starting off here with The Breed with Adrian Paul and Bokeem Woodbine. This was a movie that aired on the Sci Fi network before it was released to DVD. And it was actually pretty good. You know, I'm not saying it's the best vampire movie ever, but it's a solid watch. You know, it's not horrible. So worth checking out. Then we have Cube Zero. Every nightmare has a beginning, and this movie was a nightmare. This was horrible. I wish I could unwatch this movie. I love these Cube movies, which is why I still own this, because I'm a completist. But yeah, this ruined the other two Cube movies for me, because this one was the last one to come out, and it's a prequel. And instead of it being super serious like the other two were, this one was stupid. You know, it made a whole joke out of the whole thing, which was dumb. So not worth a watch if you've never seen it before. Then we've got Cube. Great original idea. I guess this was a student film, I believe. I'm not too certain on it. But it is, it's definitely worth a watch if you haven't seen it before. If you like horror, this is good. This is really, really good. I'm actually going to have to sit down and watch this again. It's been a while since I've watched this movie. And then we've got Cube 2 Hypercube. I actually enjoyed this just as much as the first one. It wasn't worse. It wasn't better. It was exactly the same. So I was not disappointed with this at all. Geraint Wyn Davies from Forever Knight is actually in this movie as well. So 100% worth a watch, just like the first Cube movie. Then we have Highlander, the director's cut, with Sean Connery and Christopher Lambert. This was a solid movie. I enjoyed this movie. Highlander 2, maybe not so much, but out of the series, this was Christopher Lambert. At least the original 3 he did. This was the best one. Then we have Highlander 2. This was probably the worst of the trilogy, with the shield, you know, protecting him from pollution or whatever. I just thought that was just a dumb thing. You know, and I like that Sean Connery's in this movie, but that is about the only good thing about this movie right here. Then we have Highlander 3, The Sorcerer. I actually enjoyed this movie. Not as good as the first one, but better than the second one by a lot. You know, Mario Van Peebles is the villain in this. He actually did a good job in this as well. Worth checking out if you haven't seen it before. Then we have Highlander Endgame. I was a fan of the TV series, a huge fan of Adrian Paul as Duncan MacLeod. And I like that at the beginning of the Highlander series, they actually had Christopher Lambert in the first episode, and now they have them doing a crossover movie as well. Great movie. 100% worth watching if you haven't seen it before. You know, again, not the best science fiction movie ever, but it was still really, really good. So check it out. Then we have Highlander The Source. This is the final Highlander movie, where you actually see what happens if the people, you know, the immortals win the prize, and what they have to do to win it, and who's left at the end, kind of thing. Not the greatest movie at all, but, you know, I wanted to see how it ended, so I picked it up, and it's not exactly a very common title to find out there. So, worth checking out if you see it on a streaming service somewhere. Then we have The Final Cut with Robin Williams and Myra Sorvino and Jim Caviezel. This was an okay movie. It wasn't the best. Not that scary. But, you know, it's a science fiction type of thing. This was back before I had Netflix, when I was just buying every B movie out there that looked somewhat interesting. Then streaming came along and I started taking less risks like this. So then we have Ultraviolet with Mila Jovovich. This one was okay. I was real high on her. Again, this was before I had Netflix, so I was buying everything, that looked interesting. But I was real high off of her Resident Evil movies, because at this point only the first 3 had come out, and I really enjoyed those. So I was thinking this might be worth watching, and it was only okay. It was definitely nowhere near as good as Resident Evil. Kurt Wimmer directed it. He did an okay job. Like I said, it's just a story that was kind of meh. It's better than Aeon Flux, though. They came out the same year. Then we've got The Devil's Tomb with Cuba Gooding Jr. Again, before I had Netflix. Straight to DVD horror movie with Cuba Gooding Jr. So picked it up. Was only okay. Not horrible, but not great. Don't go out of your way to watch it, but if you're looking for something different to watch, go for it. Then we have Artificial Intelligence. A lot of people were really high on this movie. I thought it was only average. I'm sure the creator that came out this year is probably similar to this movie, if I had to guess. But it was only average to me. Steven Spielberg, he can either knock it out of the park or make some real average stuff. Then we have The X-Files, I Want to Believe. This was the movie that they released after the series was over in 2000. Yeah, this was released in 2008 here. It was okay. I mean, I kind of didn't like it just because it made it seem more like, extraterrestrial stuff is not necessarily true. So you're like, so you almost kind of wasted the 9 years before thinking that it was, only to be told it wasn't, supposedly. But then they did the next 2 seasons, like later on, when they rebooted the series for a couple years. So, meh. Then we have Diary of the Dead. I really enjoyed this movie. I love a good zombie movie. And George A. Romero is obviously the originator of zombie movies. So, the only thing that I didn't like about it was the fact that it was the walking zombies after we had gotten used to the running zombies with 28 weeks later and 28 days later in the new Dawn of the Dead. But he stuck with the walking zombies. But still, it's a very solid watch if you haven't seen it before, in my opinion. I know a lot of people are not too high on this movie. Then we have Screamers, The Hunting. I'm sorry. I guess this is a sequel. I haven't seen the first one. But this was a pretty original idea. Pretty scary. Not the greatest, but it was pretty interesting and different. So I kind of enjoyed it. But I'm going to have to comment down below if you've seen the first one, if the first one of this is worth checking out or not. Then we have District 9. Wasn't too high on this movie either until the last 30 minutes. The last 30 minutes of this movie were fantastic. Everything leading up to it was really boring. Oh man, I do like the director, but really boring beyond the last 30 minutes. So I kind of don't get why people are so high on that movie. Then we have Lady in the Water. M. Night Shyamalan. Probably his worst movie he ever made. This was not good at all. Don't go out of your way to watch this if you haven't seen it before. If you see it on a streaming service, go for it, but I would not buy this movie. M. Night Shyamalan, again, is also one of those directors who can either knock it out of the park or really make a flop. I do like the lenticular cover, though. Then we have Waterworld with Kevin Costner. Only an average movie. Didn't love it. A lot of people I know love this movie for some reason, but I don't see it. Only average. Definitely not Kevin Costner's best work. Then we have Maggie with Arnold Schwarzenegger. You know, I tried to collect all of Arnold's movies, and when this one came out, made no exception. Got it. Was only average. You know, I guess I shouldn't have expected much out of this. You know, Arnold Schwarzenegger was just coming out of being the governor and kind of stretching for work. And only average. Definitely not Arnold Schwarzenegger's jam, this movie. Then we've got Primeval. It's been a while since I've watched this movie, I'll be honest. But if you like crocodile movies or like Lake Placid, this is definitely worth checking out. Solid cast. You know, I remember it did okay in the theater. Not fantastic, but okay. Dominic Purcell from Prison Break is in this movie as well. Then we have Donnie Darko, another movie that I bought back before I had Netflix. A lot of people seem to really like this movie. I hated it. I really did. This was not good at all. But a lot of people seem to like it. The cast, it's got a really, really good cast. Unfortunately, this movie just didn't do anything for me. Then we have The Covenant. Very average teen kind of sorcery, kind of witchcraft kind of thing. Not that great. Not missing much if you haven't seen it before, unless you're into that type of thing, you know, like The Host or Twilight. Then we have The Invisible. This was actually a pretty interesting movie. As far as, you know, someone who's dead trying to stick around and all this type of stuff and influence the world. Worth checking out if you haven't seen it before. It did well in the theater back when it came out, I believe. But yeah, that does it for this shelf. If you like content like this, please like and subscribe. Your support is much appreciated. I'm also on Letterboxd. The link is over in the profile section of my channel. Otherwise, until next time, guys.